Oh hey, it's Wes, and Viltrox is just on a roll these days. They've been filling out their Air series of lenses very quickly, and today we're looking at the new 25 1.7 for E-mount and Fuji X-mount. This is an APS-C lens. It is small, it is light, and we're going to start talking about the build quality. Once you take off the lens hood and the back cap, there's not a whole lot left here. We have our plastic focus ring, there's no AF/MF switch, no surprises here. Have a very nice sturdy plastic lens hood. You can make a plastic lens hood without it being cheap and junky. This is an example of that. Snaps on very firmly. I like that. Also, there is the 35 1.7, which we're also filming on from Viltrox. We've also looked at the 42.5 for full frame, 56 1.7 for APS-C. If we come around to the back, there is no gasket. This is not a weather sealed lens. We have a USB-C port. Fit and finish is very nice, but it is very plasticky. This isn't built like a tank or anything. It is built to be as light and cheap as possible while still having very high optical quality. But did they achieve that? Well, we'll get to that after we give it a 7.5 out of 10 for build quality. Handling and usability. While we are lacking an aperture, dial, and buttons and so forth, obviously the big win for usability here is once you have it mounted on a camera, weight-wise, you can't even notice that it's there. Now, obviously this is a full frame body that I have it on, so if it was on a crop sensor body, it would feel even better, more balanced. Why am I talking so quietly? The kids are in bed. I'm a little bit late putting this video together. So as a walkabout lens, as a street photography lens, is a great focal length and a very nice light lens that isn't going to weigh you down all day. That's fantastic. One great thing for usability is that USB-C port, which allows you very easy firmware updates. They're just drag and drop. The focus ring could use a little bit more damping. Feels and sounds a little bit cheap, but for walkabout and gimbal work, this lens is fantastic. Gimbal work is obviously a bit dependent on the autofocus, and we'll talk about that later. But overall, for handling and usability, it's an 8.5 out of 10. Very nice, easy, simple lens. Image quality. In the past, we have had this larger, more expensive full frame 24 1.8 from Viltrox. It's a good lens. I like it. Wide open, it's not the sharpest. Overall image performance is not amazing, but I've used this lens a lot, especially for video work. The build quality feels phenomenal. It's all metal, but it's heavier. Why am I talking about that? Well, because this 25 1.7 is a sharper lens. Optically, in pretty much every way, it's better. You have less chromatic aberration, almost none whatsoever, sharper at all apertures. I find it succumbs to diffraction a little bit sooner though when you get up to the very high apertures. Flare control is very, very good, honestly. So if we punch in here, we see lots of detail on those whiskers, lots of life in the eyes on that cat. It's a fantastic looking lens. If anything, it's a bit clinical. The colors are great. I think the colors are better on this, again, than the original 24 1.8. But also, again, this is an APS-C lens. The old 24 is a full frame lens. Fantastic. For image quality, I'm going to give this an 8.75 out of 10. Image character. This is the roughest one for me. Not for any reason you might think. If we take a look at these portraits, these everyday shots, the background is for the most part undistracting. It can get a little bit nervous, but not bad at all. But if we look at the cat's eye bokeh test, you see that the bokeh is not always round, but not really footballing or cat's eyeing either. Got a bit of onion ringing, but it's almost like a double ball. I don't know what the word is for that. So the bokeh is not fantastic. The sun stars are not great either. Overall, it has a very neutral, undistracting character. That's great. That'll get you quite a few points in my books. But to get higher than 8, you've got to have some sort of pizzazz. You've got to have something that really draws the eye in the picture. And this doesn't have that. Again, this lens has a bit of a clinical character to it. Things are fairly plain and predictable here. And that's a 7.75 out of 10. Not quite getting to that 8. Focus performance. And honestly, this was the biggest surprise for me because the 56 1.7 was usually good, but not ever great. The 42.5 was very good, but had difficulties because it couldn't collect enough light. This one though, look, it's phenomenal in low light, in good light, edge to edge. For the speed, that's really the only thing that I can take any points away for. It's not as fast as like the fastest E-mount lenses on the market with their dual direct drive motors. I don't know if there are any third-party lenses that are. And so I have to give this a 9 out of 10. It's basically a first-party lens. It has none of the usual drawbacks of a third-party lens. Fantastic, reliable, dependable. Finally, value. This is one where I thought I knew what it was going to get, and then I did my research, and unfortunately, it has something that kind of ruins a high score in this. So this one comes in at $176 US. That's a great price. I remember back in the day, I bought the Sony 35 1.8 for hundreds of dollars, like so much more. And it was kind of a mediocre lens. I mean, back then it seemed fine, but man, these new APS-C lenses are just bangers compared to that old stuff. Let's compare to the market. And here's where the upset is. The TT Artisan 23 1.8 is $130. It's an autofocus lens, just phenomenal value. I have not tested it. TT Artisan is great for optics. I just cannot imagine that its autofocus is as good as the autofocus in the 25 1.7. It just doesn't seem possible to me, but it is what it is. I can't comment too much on that lens though. Moving on up, there is the Tokina 23 1.4 for $450. There's the old Viltrox 23 1.4 for $280. I've used that. It costs more optically, not as good as this. Has a bit of a vintagey character though, so has kind of its own vibe going on there. There is the Sierra Sniper 23 1.2. Very good lens, great autofocus, but it costs more, $350, a lot more. The original Viltrox 24 1.8, a lot more money, $380. Viltrox has their Pro 27 1.2. This is the 75, $545. I have to assume that the 27 1.2 is as good as this 75 1.2, and this lens is insanely good. All right, moving right along. There's the old Sigma 23 1.4 for $600, and the Sony 24 1.8, $800. That's a full frame lens, but kind of overpriced. Because of the existence of that TT Artisan, I have to give this an 8 out of 10 for value. It's just so much cheaper. We have so many amazing APS-C options now. It's ridiculous. And honestly, it's making me want to get an APS-C camera, like an FX30 or like a 6400. The ability to get this much light in this light a package with optics this good, like, I mean, just moving back to these other ones, the Sierra Sniper lenses, they are 1.2 lenses, not wicked sharp wide open, but not bad at all. And the two Viltrox Pro lenses, two for now, the 75 and the 27, they're just crazy good. What do you think about the world of APS-C lenses right now? It's a great time to be a Fuji customer. It's a great time to be an APS-C E-mount customer. Gotta say, just fantastic. What do you think about the 25 1.7 Air? If you want to pick one up, there's going to be a link down in the description below to help support this channel and feed my fat cats. If you have any questions about it or the whole Air lineup, let me know. I'll get back to you in the comments. Until next time, let's keep it light and go take some photos.